Sometimes the best way to make money from woodworking is not to follow woodworking at all.
Sounds stupid to anyone else.
It's to follow trends. Let me explain it. When baking your own sourdough breads became popular and you started seeing it all over social media, woodworkers were selling bread knives. When everybody was acting like reading was fun again and you started seeing that all over social media, woodworkers were building book holders. And right now there's a trending hobby that's perfect for Mother's Day where people are buying something ridiculously simple. So I built a couple just to see if it's actually worth it. Enough talking, let's get to building. Okay, to get started, we're gonna have to cut 2 squares out. One out of a 2x6 and one out of a 1x6. Now 1x6 material and 2x6 for that matter are usually about 5.5 inches, somewhere around there. This one's about 5 7/16. So if you just cut yours 5.5 inches this way, you should be close enough, unless you got one that's really off. Now I'm gonna use my miter saw to cut these two, but it's 2 boards. If you had to, you could cut them by hand. Okay, so now we just need to find the center of our 2 boards. You can do that just by making a line from corner to corner in both directions. Then I'm gonna use my center punch to mark the center where the lines intersect. So in the 1x6, I'm gonna make a circle with my compass. My circle is gonna be about 4.5 inches across. I'm gonna stack up some foam because I'm gonna try to cut out this circle with my jigsaw. It's not gonna be easy because it's a small circle, but I'm gonna give it a shot. I've done it before, but I had to clean it up a lot on the turd polisher back there. So if you don't have a turd polisher, there's other ways of making a circle. You can use a router template. There's jigs you can make. If you have a bandsaw, that's probably the best way, or a scroll saw. But if all you have is a jigsaw, I'll show you how to do it with the jigsaw. Well, I guess not all you have is a jigsaw because then you need the sander to clean it up. But you could probably clean it up with a palm sander. In the future, I want to make some sort of jig because I'm always making circles. Look at this, guys. Came out a lot like me. Not real pretty, a little oddly shaped, but really close to being round. You can see when you try to force those skinny blades around too tight of a curve, they bend out like this and they give you a weird cut like that. See how it's cut at an angle all the way around? So this was just a little bit too steep of a cut for a jigsaw, but it worked, and I'm gonna clean mine up on the turd polisher. When I cut it out, I purposely left some around there so I could sand it to the line. It seems like this would work better if you had one of those oscillating sanders. Now, I've never tried one of those. You guys let me know in the comments what works better, these disc sanders or those oscillating sanders for something like this. Since the disc sander sands up and down, or actually down, I went back and I cleaned it up on the belt sander so it was gone in the same direction as the grain. But all in all, I think it came out pretty good. What do you guys think? Okay, so now we're gonna sand our pieces down. Make sure your center hole is punched in the circle before you sand it down so you can find the center again, because we're gonna have to drill a hole there. And after I sanded down the 2x block, I used the sander to round over all the corners too. All right, I made a couple different versions for you guys so you guys can see some differences. This is my normal standard one. It's all sanded. I'm gonna drill the hole next. We'll put that one to the side for a second. This is another one. If you have a hard time making circles, you could do something like this, where it's like a stop sign. What is that, an octagon? And I think that looks pretty cool. And if you don't have a hard time making circles, you can do this one. This is a double circle. Whatever one you guys like better between these two. What I like about this one is there's an added feature you can do to it that I'm gonna show you when we get to it. The next thing I need to figure out, I'm gonna show you on this one, is make it so this top part can spin freely. And the way I'm gonna do it on this one is with these little lazy Suzan attachment things. So with these, you just put it onto here, you screw it onto there, you screw the other one onto here, and it spins. One way a lot of people do it, you see the gap in there when you put that on there? A lot of people will recess this, and I'm gonna recess it just so I can show you the full thing of how to do it. If you don't have the means or you don't feel like recessing it or whatever, you don't have to. I don't think that looks bad. That's not that bad of a gap in between there. But I'm gonna show you how to recess it just so you get the full picture of what you can do. Then with this one right here, I'm gonna show you another way to do it where you don't have to buy any hardware. You don't have to buy these things. So with these things, I got them off of Amazon. They were, I got a 10 pack for, I think it was $15.99. So about $1.50 or more a piece, plus there's tax on there. So $1.60 a piece. I understand if you don't wanna buy them, so I'm gonna show you another way you could do it that doesn't cut into your cost. All right, so I'm just gonna make a quick dirty template on here. I don't know why I said dirty, but just a quick, easy template. I'm just gonna trace this on here.
Then I'm going to use my router with a template bit to make a recess for this Lazy Susan hardware.
I got my template clamped down, and I'm going to use a 5/8 drill bit because I want the corners to be round. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to try to line it up with that edge. And I'm going to put a hole in each corner. So I'm drilling that I go over the line rather than to the line. I want the template to be a little bit bigger than the Lazy Jason that we're using. All right, I put down some foam, and I'm gonna use my jigsaw to cut this out.
When you cut it out, try to stay on the line and don't go inside the line. It's better to be a little wider so that your piece fits in here.
All right, so let's see. That should be great. That's a perfect template.
Then center your Lazy Susan on the base and then clamp it down for a second until you can get some screws in it. And now you shouldn't see these screw holes once you take the template off because they'll be under your circle.
And I want to countersink them so that my router doesn't catch on them. I'm going to bring the piece to the corner of my bench so I can get a little bit of a bite on two corners so it doesn't move around. And then when I'm routing it, I got to make sure I hold this at an angle so that I don't bump the corner clamps.
Now I didn't try to hog out the full amount at once. I made several passes. I just went down a little bit at a time, like a 1/16 at a time.
All right, that should be plenty deep enough. Let's check it out. What do you guys think? Now I put this in and look at that. So there's our recess, and this is how it looks a little bit recessed. You see that? It's about halfway recessed. Now we have a much smaller gap.
Here's a side by side so you can see the difference.
Okay, so now I need to drill my 5/8 inch hole. And I'm only gonna go in about a 1/2 inch. The head of the bit is about a 1/2 inch, so I usually just go in till the head is buried. I wanted to show you guys this issue with the dowels. I got both these dowels from Walmart. Now, I don't know if that's where you're gonna get yours from. You may not like it. Some people talk crap because I shop at Walmart.
He's poor.
I get them there when I'm grocery shopping sometimes, and they're pretty cheap compared to other places. As you can see, they're both 5/8 dowels. Look at how loose this one is. And then look at this one. Perfectly snug. So just a warning, if you get your dowels from Walmart, the Home Depot ones weren't much better in my opinion. So in the octagon shaped one, I'm gonna drill my hole all the way through. I'm gonna try to hold it as straight as I can. So now I took the top off. I'm gonna go a little bit deeper into the base. Probably about 1 inch. I'm gonna cut my dowel to 6.5 inches. I wanna give my dowel a light sanding, but I don't wanna sand the last 1/2 inch. So I'm gonna try to put a piece of tape on there and see if that'll help. I don't wanna make it too small for the hole.
Then I rounded over the tip on my benchtop sander or my turd polisher for the people that have been on my channel before. And now if you don't have a turd polisher or a benchtop sander, you can always use an orbital sander like this or gnaw it off like a beaver. Just you do whatever you gotta do to round that tip. Now I was sanding mine like this, but it didn't feel right putting this on my regular channel, so the rest of this is going on my Patreon.
So I'm gonna pick one corner, and I'm gonna just to keep it simple, I'm gonna use that same 5/8 inch bit, and I'm gonna drill a hole into this corner right here for storage. So just like that. Now on this one, I don't have as much space in the corner, so I'm gonna do a 3/8 inch hole. Oh, look what I just did. Because I was not holding it. Sometimes filming is not easy. See what I just did? Took a big old chunk out of it. Wah, wah, wah. Now I just made it rustic.
Since these holes were smaller, I ended up doing 2, so you'd have more storage.
Now, if you're using a Lazy Susan attachment, there's one more hole we gotta drill, and this is so that you can install it. You need to turn the Lazy Susan this way. I don't know what that would be called, perpendicular or whatever, I don't know. The opposite of this one, so that your holes are like a diamond shape or a star. There you go, a star shaped. And then we're gonna make a hole right here. You only need one. I'm gonna do this one with the 3/8 inch drill bit too, just because I have it on here. I just need something big enough to get a screwdriver through. All the way through so you can get a screwdriver through from the other side. So this one I'm gonna stain with this water-based red mahogany because since it's such a small project, it should take the water-based very well.
Speaking of water-based stains, my underwears are really stained and I need to get some new ones. So everything you guys can do to help, if you like this video, please like, comment, share, subscribe. And if I've earned it, hit that hype button. Thanks guys, I really appreciate you all.
For the sake of time, I'm not gonna stain this one. I am gonna put a finish coat, but I'm just gonna leave it natural, which is an option when you're doing this kind of stuff. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna put 2 stir sticks I got from Home Depot. They're like a 16-inch thick. You can use any kind of scrap wood you got. If you got some popsicle sticks, hopefully that's tall enough. I drilled my hole a little crooked for this. So I gotta kind of pull it up a little bit like that. I should put it at a slant and tell everybody that it's supposed to be at a slant for the spooling. Sorry, don't lie to the customers. Your wife's one thing, but don't lie to the customers. So when I pull it straight, it kind of hangs over this side a little bit more, but you got to do what you got to do. And I'm just going to put some CA glue in here. I'm trying a different kind of CA glue. It comes in a much bigger bottle for a cheaper price than Starbond. Starbond acts like they're selling the cure for baldness over there. So I'm just pulling this up a little bit and putting a little bead around here. Then I'm going to put it down in there, get it straight, spray a little activator. All right, and then pull your sticks out. Now, I mean, it's not meant to spin that fast, but I mean, that's pretty good. Bam! Cheap, lazy Susan. That sounds like the nickname my wife calls me, Cheap, Lazy Jason. For this first one, I'm using a matte finish water-based polyurethane as a top coat. On the spike, I'm using a scrap piece of wood and I drilled a hole into it so I can clear coat it and I don't have to worry about holding it. I can just clear coat it and let it sit in here and dry because the last little bit I don't really want to get clear coat on it anyways because it's going to be what I glue in, put the glue to hold it into here.
And then just make sure you do several coats and sand in between with like a 400 grit sandpaper.
For this one, I'm just going to use this paste wax as a top coat, and it's going to help also with the spinning part. So make sure you put some paste wax in your hole as well as your dowel.
Mickey might be gay.
Okay, so now we're going to assemble the Lazy Susan one. It didn't come with screws, so I had to get these separately. I'm just using some number 6 1/2-inch screws. I'm going to do a little bit of a pre-drill. Now to install the top, you're probably wondering, how do you get a screw into there? Well, that's what that hole was for that we made earlier that goes all the way through. It's to get a screw tip through it. So you can install the screws that hold the top on. So I'm gonna eyeball, I'm gonna stand up to do this. I'm gonna eyeball center. That looks about good right there. Then I'm gonna use a couple of clamps to hold the thing on center. I can see the hole for the Lazy Susan hardware through the little hole in the bottom here. And I just make sure that's lined up. Can you hear my neighbor's dogs? They're always barking. They don't even live right next to me. They live in the next neighborhood over, but you can hear them from my house. Okay, I made sure it was centered in the middle. And now all I do is put the screw in through this little hole. Then I'm gonna turn it all the way to the other side. And I'm gonna double check and make sure it's centered. Make sure my hole's lined up. Now you just gotta turn it to each hole and put the screw in. I'm just gonna use a little wood glue to attach the post. And I'm just gonna put a spot of crazy glue in the side here, or CA glue. Spritz it with a little activator. And let that dry. All right, you guys ready to see what these are? Check it out. Bam! Do you know what that is? You probably don't. I still don't know the difference between crocheting and knitting, but this is a knitting thing. You put your yarn on here, you can store some needles in here, right? And then when you're knitting a blanket over here, I'm pretending like I know how to knit, but I don't. What do you guys think? There's a bunch of different ones of these that you can see online. I'll show you some right now. Wonder Woman was impressed. I don't know if your guys' wives or girlfriends or side bays or whatever are into knitting, but look. And then this one, same thing. You got a couple storage spots for your needles. When they're not using it, it just sits like that. They can swap it out, put a different one on there if they want. Now, when I finally give up and turn this into a knitting channel or crochet channel, whichever one I'm gonna do, I got something to use. Look at that. You can also put some toilet paper on there if you want, put it in the bathroom.